Did you know? The joke that saved a life. The great hall was silent. Not the gentle silence of a resting court, but the kind that presses down on your chest, thick with fear. Nobles stood rigid, their eyes fixed ahead, careful not to breathe too loudly. At the far end, upon a raised throne, the king watched with cold impatience. Before him knelt the court jester. Only days earlier, he had been the source of laughter, dancing, mocking, turning even the king's darkest moods into amusement. But humor is a dangerous art when it strays too close to truth. One careless jest, one line that cut a little too deep, and now he was here, on his knees, awaiting death. The charge? Disrespect. The sentence? Execution. The executioner stood ready, axe gleaming under the torchlight. "Have you any last words?" the king asked, his voice calm, almost bored. A ripple moved through the court. Last words rarely mattered. They were a formality, something to fill the space before the end. The jester looked up. For a moment, he said nothing. His face, once painted with exaggerated smiles, was now bare, human, fragile. But in his eyes, there was still something alive, something sharp. Then he spoke. "Your Majesty," he said, bowing his head slightly, "I ask only one mercy." The king raised an eyebrow. "Speak." "Allow me to choose how I die." A murmur spread through the hall. It was an unusual request, but not unheard of. Kings, after all, enjoyed displays of control, and sometimes, of generosity. The king leaned back, considering. Then, with a small wave of his hand, he granted it. "Very well," he said. "Choose your death." The jester paused just long enough. Then, with perfect calm, he replied, "I choose to die of old age." For a heartbeat, the world stopped. The executioner froze. The nobles blinked, unsure if they had heard correctly. And then, slowly, the realization spread. It was absurd. It was impossible. It was brilliant. A few gasps turned into suppressed laughter. Even those who feared the king couldn't help it. The answer was too clever, too perfectly delivered. It twisted the moment, bending it away from death and into something else entirely. All eyes turned to the throne. The king's expression did not change at first. He stared at the jester, measuring him, not as a fool, but as a man who had just done something extraordinary. Then, unexpectedly, the king smiled. It was small, reluctant, but real. "A clever tongue," he said, his voice softer now. "Perhaps too valuable to lose." He waved his hand again, this time, dismissively. "Release him." The tension shattered. The executioner stepped back. The nobles exhaled. And the jester, still kneeling, allowed himself the smallest breath of relief. He had walked to the edge of death and talked his way back,